Hello, everyone, and welcome to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host. Please subscribe, like, and share the content to your fellow family members, your allies, and whoever else is in your life around you that would love to, hear more about the content that we put on a regular basis out on the show. Disabilities affect everybody in our lives around us and around the world. Anyone can become disabled at any point in time in their life, or you're born with a disability. So it does affect everybody's life in general. We talk about these things all the time, and there's so much more to talk about. And I always say on my podcast, if you'd love to come on to the show, reach out to Neil or myself, and we'll get you scheduled in. Basically, we have Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays open during the weekdays. So we can get you scheduled in as long as it's no later than 5 p.m. Eastern time on a weekday. Definitely, we can accommodate you. I love to hear your stories. I love to hear what how things in general affect your life as a person with disabilities in the community across Canada. And we actually get people around the world that come on too. So I mean, we do focus on the channel here for Canadians with disabilities and their allies, but there is no border really. But that is our main focus. When I say there's no border, we have people from the United States that come on. We have people from Europe that come on. We have people from Trinidad that have come on.
We've had somebody from Africa come on.
Yeah, and we have a radio station in Trinidad that actually broadcasts our podcast out, which I'm really grateful.
Which they do an amazing job at repackaging your podcast. By the way, like really good job, really good job.
Yeah, on Wednesdays, they broadcast it at 9 o'clock a.m.
It's high energy FM is the channel. You can just Google it, look it up, High Energy FM. And yeah, it's great. It's neat to hear how they kind of repackage everything and put it out there. Yeah,
exactly. And today's show is part 2 of Rant Rave. So I hope that people enjoyed the part 1. Part 1, we really focused a lot about the election in BC that's coming up on October 19th. Today is Friday, October 18th, one day before the BC election. So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a razor close election. We have, again, I will just let their viewers and listeners know that what's happening in BC. And just at the top of the show here, we have the leader for the BC NDP, David Eby. They were in government. Now we have an election coming up. So now they're all leaders. So we'll see what happens. We have the leader for the BC Green Party, Sonia Furstenau. So we'll see if she can get some more seats in the legislature to hold whoever forms government to account. She will hold them to account. And we have the leader for the BC Conservative Party, which hasn't been in government for like 100 years. That's John Rustad. That's why, and we have a whole handful, of independent candidates, and I've never in my election voting years, I've never seen anything like this before.
And that is the true wild card of this whole election, isn't it? It's all the independent, because of the fact that the BC Liberal basically dissolved. And let's also remind people that when David Eby took over, I mean, he basically was handed the job. Let's be honest. David Eby was handed the job as premier. And he basically disqualified the one person that was running against him. Remember, that was a whole big controversy too. So there's a lot of people that actually jumped the NDP ship because they didn't appreciate the job that David Eby was doing. And again, that's just, I mean, it's not even my opinion, it's the opinion of a lot of people. you know, you don't have to dig too far to even know that that John Horgan himself was never a big fan of David Eby. So anyway, you know, David Eby's kind of been parachuted in, and as kind of, you know, he was unencumbered by any, like, he didn't have to compete against anybody. It was like, here you go, here's the premiership, you know, have at it, you know, and so it'll be really interesting. But you know, there's a lot of good people that are independents now, including, as we've said before, Dan Davies, and there's a lot of others too that were MLAs, you know, and
there's a whole
that were elected, and very good MLAs, and they've chosen to be independent this year, and so I hope a lot of them have really good success. You know, Dan Davies being one of them for sure.
Yeah, and there's, you know, Karen Kirkpatrick. There's a whole bunch of them that are great, you know, great colleagues to Dan Davies. That I think their voices, you know, are going to be heard in the legislature. I hope, and I wish, you know, all the candidates great success in the upcoming election. You know, nonpartisan. You know, I think basically anyone who basically puts their name forward in the election, I wish them great success. I really wish them all well. You know, regardless of which political party they're in. I mean, putting your name forward for an election, I mean, it means a lot, because they care about, you know, deep down, they really care about what they want to do to try to make change in people's lives. But what I want to say on that part, though, to get this story, the Rant Rave part, is to get it going here, is that people with disabilities, like, it's no fault of our own, right? I mean, we're born with disabilities, like, and I always say we acquire them as we get older. And disabilities don't stop at the age 65, even though the federal government says that, well, the cutoff is that time, and you don't get a disability status anymore. You just get your old age security and GIS and all the other CPP and all that stuff, and hope that it doesn't get clawed off you. That's another topic in itself. But of course, having that dangled over from an election point of view, like promises in a platform, you know, to break it down, we kind of went over that in the part one of the Rant and Rave, where BC NDP and their platform, they have support for CLBC, share, I guess rent share or whatever. So that only goes for people with disabilities under CLBC. That doesn't for the general PWD.
Which again is a very small percentage.
It's a small percentage.
Yeah.
It doesn't really help the majority of the PWD in BC. But we're told that we got to wait till next year, July of 2025, to wait on a Canada disability benefit that we all know that it was completely bungled up, and the federal government was told, do not go down this rabbit hole, do not do this, from top advisors and through all the organizations and across Canada who want to lift people out of deep legislative poverty. They've all basically told the federal government in committee meetings, people with lived experience, people with disabilities across Canada, through submissions and also through meetings. I mean, they did consultations. They wanted people's input, and again, the federal government completely went down the rabbit hole, and knowing damn well that it was going to make people with disabilities suffer in Canada. I mean, promising like oh, I promise you, like 4.5 years ago. Now we're in 2024. We're October 18th of 2024. Over 4.5 years ago, we were promised something. If you're going to make a promise, then you need to fulfill that promise, rather than like 4.5 years later, you still haven't figured it out. Yeah. So people that are listening and watching right now, the federal government, it was in the PBO, okay, and it was in the report stating that $2,000 minimum, okay. And that's just that's in general. That's not with another person with disability. Like if you have a disability, okay, now that amount is actually even higher than that. It's greater than that because your expenses are even higher. Now that was just a basic amount. So that amount would have gone on top of your provincial disability across Canada. So it had been that amount, 2,000, plus your amount from your provincial assistance. So that would have been over $3,000 a month. What did the federal government do? Oh, before I go to that part, it was based on the individual. Okay. So what did the federal government do? They said, here's $200 we're going to do, and it's based on a household. So imagine 1 out of 10 scale, 10 meaning, yeah, we're going to get the $2,000. They went right back to number one.
Well,
So
they basically took all of the input that was given
they flushed it down the
by
toilet.
the disability community and said, "Oh, well, we're not going to listen to any of it."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what, like, nothing. They listened to nothing.
Yeah, what they did, Neil,
Wow.
was they put it down the toilet, and they did one of those rapid flush toilets. It's
Yeah.
just, we don't want this.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
You
Anyway,
know,
I'm going to hand it over to you, Neil, because
yeah.
the show started here on the other topic.
One of the things I wanted to touch on is, when we had Jeff Leggett on the other day, he mentioned a quote from David Eby and Jeff got it wrong because he said the other day David Eby said this, and I didn't know, and you didn't know, Jeff was just saying it at the time, and Jeff honestly thought that it was just the other day it was said.
Yeah.
But the quote was that if you want to blow your entire welfare check on crack, that's your right to do that. And I mean, and that's something that David Eby did say, but the thing that we got wrong, and the thing I want to apologize for, the thing that we got wrong is the time frame, and it was a pretty significant time frame shift. It was something that David Eby did say, but it was before he was premier. It was said in 2009, so a full 15 years ago.
Wow. 2009.
You
Wow,
know, and I mean, when you have parties like the BC Conservatives and BC NDP, they're just throwing my back and forth and kind of duking it out and throwing punches. Everybody kind of plays fast and loose with the truth, right? And I just want to say that I don't want to do that. I don't want to play fast and loose with the truth. So I'm here acknowledging that our mistake, and I mean, it was an innocent mistake from Jeff too. He didn't know. Like, it was kind of put out like it was said yesterday, and it really wasn't. It was said 15 years ago, like I said, back in 2009. But the fact of the matter is, he did say it. David Eby did say it. Not as a premier, but as a lawyer. He said, if you want to flush your entire welfare check and smoke crack, that's your right. And I mean, so I am apologizing that we got the time frame wrong. But the reason why I'm still leaving the video up is because it still gives a kind of a window into the heart, mind, and soul of who David Eby is. And because the fact of the matter is, like, people don't change their spots. Like, we can pretend that we become completely different animals in 15 years, but that's the fact of the matter is we don't. And that's why, like, the thing that Mike Harcourt said 30 years ago about that people on welfare are all cheats, varmints, and deadbeats. That was said 30 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And as a province, like people with disabilities are still feeling 30 years later the repercussions of that statement.
Of the policies that the government, the administration back then had done for persons with disabilities in BC, and then again when under the Gordon Campbell era under his administration, after they formed government there too, they tried doing a clean sweep right across all ministries just to save a buck, and try to reassess persons with disabilities to see if they're still disabled. I will still never ever forgive the government of that day for the anguish treatment that they put me through. I was one of them, Neil, that they had tried to reassess me, and my doctor was beyond livid. I mean, beyond livid. I've never ever in my life seen someone except for my dad yelling at me when I was a little child. And I got the strap. I got the strap from my dad, but this was not even comparison of my doctor being so mad. He yelled and he apologized to me. My doctor apologized, and I'm going to make this very clear to our listeners and our viewers. My doctor apologized because he raised his voice and in frustration, not at me, but he was so upset. Like, he took it personally. He told me to get and I'm sorry, I don't normally swear on my show. He told me to get the fuck out of his office now. He says, I'm tired of all this goddamn government bureaucratic red tape bullshit. He says, Brent, I'm a physician. I'm a surgeon. I work at the hospital. I also run out of my own office, my practice. I don't have time for this BS. And he said he was going to do a lawsuit against provincial government. And a couple of years later, after I got a phone call from my doctor's office stating that my doctor is now retiring. I didn't have a doctor. Again, the government put him under undue stress and anxiety. They put me under that. I mean, I could have done a lawsuit against them too at the time. I let it go, but I could have went and exceeded it. All I got was a $500 bonus inconvenience check as a bonus check, saying I'm so sorry. So try to buy me out of saying, oh, I'm so sorry. Well, I guess my question was to the government, and it is even now, why the hell would you do that to persons with disabilities? Just to try to make yourself look good. And going forward to the current government that was in power, like you didn't give it a rate increase this year for persons with disabilities. Why?
Well, let's just stop there, because I want to stay on Gordon Campbell for just a moment longer. Again, this was back in 2002 when Gordon Campbell did this. And I know there's a lot of people that are fans of Gordon Campbell, and I mean, fine, but the fact of the matter is, if you were a person with a disability, I mean, your perspective would change immediately, because the fact of the matter is, there is blood on his hands for that decision, that he put himself above the authority of doctors, saying, I don't want to trust the authority of the medical opinion of doctors. I am, as a premier, I'm going to veto that opinion and say it doesn't matter, and just have everybody reassessed. And when he did that, there was a number of people that committed suicide because they were under stress from that decision. So there is blood literally on Gordon Campbell's hands. And I mean, one
of my neighbors, Neil, actually sadly was one of the victims that did. And that's why I take it very personally. And someone that I know in my life, I won't mention, but is from one of the parties. But had told me too the same story, and it's really disgusting. Totally disgusting. Any party. I don't care, like, nonpartisan of which party. Like, we need to take care of our citizens and our residents. Persons with disabilities. If you're a senior, you're low income. Persons with disabilities. I mean, we all live in this province. We all live across Canada. We all live whatever province you're in. We need to take care of our brothers and sisters, mothers, fathers. We need to take care of our veterans too, and that's coming up soon too. We'll get into that part later in the show. Again,
but again, I mean, that's why you can be very, I don't know, split and say that Gordon Campbell did a lot of good things for the economy, and maybe that's true, but he did that at the expense of the disabled community, and that I know that's just not good. And like just the other day, actually, my parents actually, I'll say right off the hop, but my parents have never, I don't think, watched any of the episodes of the PWD podcast.
Oh,
And I don't know why they just don't. So
it's a good show. It's a good
yeah,
show.
so they don't know that I rant about Mike Harcourt all the time. And just the other day, my dad said, because we were talking about the election, he says, you know what, I think Mike Harcourt was one of the better premiers that we had. And he just kind of off the cuff said that, and I just about kind of puked in my mouth, right? I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything because I thought, well, what's the point? But he said, yeah, I thought Mike Harcourt did a pretty good job. And again, if you're not a disabled person, you're gonna say, yeah, he did a pretty good job. But the fact of the matter is, he put himself out there as an advocate of the disabled people, which was a lie. He deliberately enlisted oppressive policies like the clawback, like eliminating the pension.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, took away the pensions. Yeah.
It all started with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so and then like here's a guy that because I followed Mike Harcourt for years, actually, because I just don't like him so much that I follow him, just kind of troll him a little bit. And this is a guy that does all kinds of Toastmaster things, like $1,000 a plate dinners to give talks to like the VIPs of the world, kind of thing, like my life as a premier and all that kind of stuff. And that you have the Simon Fraser University giving him an honorary degree for humanitarian service. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself, like, if the university, if the Simon Fraser University adopted a disabled lens on things, started to adopt a disabled lens on things, they would see how corrupt and how,
and then
his policies were.
Yeah, meanwhile, the leader for the BC NDP just recently had put a video out of endorsing, having Mike Harcourt endorsing the leader for the BC NDP. I saw the video, and he had said, Mike Harcourt had said, people need money. People need money. Well, and I thought, wow, okay, well, when you were premier, you did not want to have people with disabilities have their pension. So let's make it highly income means tested. Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine, to our viewers and listeners, imagine you're a senior, okay, and you're on a fixed income, and you had your pension taken away, or you are on a CPP, okay, and you're relying on that. Oh, we're going to take away CPP now, so you get to have this, and you don't get to have your pension, or you're on a pension plan with your employer.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't get a pension any longer. We're going to take it away. We're going to make it highly income means tested, and we're going to claw back anything else you make.
And again, this is not my opinion. I mean, no. Of course, I'm biased. Of course, I know I'm biased. This is not my opinion that a pension should be honored. That's a definite, like, pensions are defined as protected, respected, guaranteed incomes. That's what a pension is. Mm-hmm. So when you take a protected, respected, guaranteed income and you all of a sudden you just flush it and pretend it doesn't exist and turn it into a pink unicorn, and say this is the new truth. This is the new truth that your pension is now a pink unicorn. I'm sorry, I have a problem with that, because that's no longer the truth.
And when I mentioned about when I pick out certain names and I say a certain person, well, they did this and that, I want to make it very clear that it's the policies that person directed to make it happen. Okay, so when we mention on the show certain people, it's not meant as a target throwing at them. It's the policies in the system that what I want to see changed, so that we can now eliminate archaic policies that were written probably way back in, who knows, maybe back in the 1500s. I don't know when they were written, but whatever successive governments going forward, you can modernize these things. You can actually make BC a better place. When I was a little child, I was so happy. I was so happy saying, this is a great place. And we went through, elementary and high school and through social studies, and we would study all the provinces, and we'd have to learn all the capitals. Like, what are the capitals for every province? I can still tell you all that right now because it was drilled into my mind. But we got to learn about that. Who is the prime minister? Who are all the premiers of the country? I bet if we asked the average person, who are they? I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. We should do that one day on the show. Eh? That would be kind of a fun episode.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about the past, Brent, because to go with my apology.
I love history. I history.
Yeah, to go with that, I just wanted to transition, going back to our apology for getting the time frame wrong about what David Eby said and when he said it. He did say what he said, but it was back again, like we said, in 2009. But I wanted to also, I don't often talk about my mother-in-law.
Right.
My mother-in-law from my previous marriage, I still talk to her almost every day and have lunch with her at least once a week and go to church with her every week.
Nice.
I've maintained that ever since the death of my wife. I've maintained that from for the last 11 years. It's been an ongoing thing, and I treasure it. And anyway, I just saw her like last Sunday, and she said, I should say that of course my son is pretty involved in the podcast too, or he has been. We do food reviews.
He's amazing.
Food reviews and game reviews and stuff like that.
But I still want you to get your son to play some Elvis on here.
Yeah, well, we'll do that. We'll do that. But what I was going to say is one of the things he did when he was over at my mother-in-law's is he subscribed her to the channel, to the PWD Allies podcast, the YouTube channel.
Nice.
So and she's not very technical savvy or technically literate, but she does love her Chromebook. She's got a little Chromebook, and she loves it because she can keep tabs on emails and the church bulletins and stuff like that. So she likes to watch YouTube actually. But again, she's a little bit computer illiterate. But the fact that my son pressed subscribe, it means that she automatically gets, every time I post a video, she gets that notification saying, "Oh, there's a new video."
Yeah, that's how neat it is when for people who want to figure out how do I do this? Do I get a notification? I'm glad that you explained it, because using YouTube to access the shows, like as soon as you subscribe, that's it. That's all you gotta do, and you're always gonna get the notification when our show pops up.
Yeah.
So people say, "I don't know how do I use YouTube?" I always remember that. How do I use YouTube?
And again, so my mother-in-law's pretty computer illiterate, but she still loves the computer, but the fact that she's subscribed now, she gets the automatic notifications. Here's a new video, and she does watch them. And she actually kind of criticized me on the last podcast, the part one, where we were very kind of very opinionated about David Eby and about Mike Harcourt. And she said, I don't think you should be hard on the government like that. I think the government deserves respect. And she says that's not very Christian-like of you. And it kind of opened my eyes, and I said, well, yeah, actually that's a fair point. And I just wanted to say, I think people that have watched this podcast know that I am a Christian man. I've been a Christian man for, since about age 33. So that's, I'm, what am I now? 56. So it's been about 23 years, I could say, that I've been Christian. And it's important to me. So yeah, I mean, that was a valid point, that what you were doing wasn't very Christian-like, if we watch back the first part one, I mean, there was a lot of poop references and more than that, right?
Yeah.
I think we set a record for the amount of times we said poop and different variations of that. And so that's true. That's all true. And so again, I can apologize for that as well. That it's very true that it's not Christian-like. And I should maybe hold my tongue a little bit more. But I do want to say that that if I sometimes seem like I'm losing my cool a little bit and not being Christian like on the last part one,
Right.
it's just I have this kind of righteous anger, and I'm not trying to put myself in the position of God at all, of course, but it's kind of this righteous anger, like this isn't right. This isn't right what the government's doing, and so I get angry and there's a story in the Bible from, I think it's told in both Matthew and in Mark. It talks about when Jesus comes into the temple, and there's all these people that are selling. They've turned the temple. They've turned this place of prayer, where you're supposed to just pray to God. They've turned this place of prayer into this marketplace where everybody's just buying and selling crap, And so Jesus comes along, and he's got also all these merchants have got all these tables set up where all these things are selling, right? Excuse me. And so Jesus comes along and starts flipping the tables, and it's like starts knocking over all these tables, and it's like, what are you doing? You're basically defacing a place of prayer and of reverence and of honor to God, and you're turning it into this place of like buying and selling. And so he gets mad. It's really the only place in the Bible, other than if you go all the way to the end of the Bible where it talks about Revelation, where Jesus comes back and he's going to come back as the judge, like that Jesus comes as the Lamb, right? He comes as the Lamb of God, as a young child, and comes as the Lamb of God, and then he will come back again as a lion to judge, right? As the ultimate judge, he'll come again to judge everybody. But anyway, so that's the one instance that one instance in the Bible of it shows that Jesus kind of losing his cool and just flipping the tables and saying, this is crap, like what are you doing? And so and again, I'm not trying to place myself in the position of God at all, but that's where that kind of anger comes from for me, is that kind of righteous anger, because like you were talking about, in the past where we learned all this kind of stuff in school, and I just wanted to hop on that because it wasn't so long ago when we had God Save the Queen sung in the mornings at the announcements, right? We had God Save the Queen, and we had morning prayer, and this was in public schools, and it really wasn't. It really wasn't that long ago. I mean,
we did. We went through that too, Neil.
It seems like it was a long time ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. They had morning prayer, and they had God Save the Queen, and we had
the national anthem.
We had national anthem, and we had Christmas parties. And it wasn't festival. It wasn't winter festivals. It was Christmas parties, and when they had songs sung at the Christmas celebrations, it was songs about Jesus, and nobody got offended. I
remember that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that to remind people of that, and say, as much as some people now they'll get offended by all. Don't talk about God because I'm going to get offended. But the fact of the matter is our governments, both federal and provincial, all across Canada, used to be founded on the truth of God, the righteousness of God, the justice of God. Our Canadian Constitution has God referenced in the Canadian Constitution, and there's a lot of people that say, like, what are you doing that should be taken out, But the fact of the matter is, the reason why it was there is because that was the standard. God's standard is the right standard. It's the true standard. God's truth is the truth to aspire to. God's justice is the justice to aspire to. God's righteousness is the righteousness to aspire to. And our governments, again, both provincial and federal, used to aspire to that.
Yeah, but now they violated that standard.
It's just crazy how quickly Canada has fallen off the cliff that way, and it's just so sad. Where if you're a Christian like I am, like I'm almost considered a flight risk. It's like, well, you're a Christian, so you must be a nut bar or something. So like we can't trust you because you believe in some like there's honestly people that think of God as some sort of imaginary Santa Claus. And I'm sorry, he's not a Santa Claus. Even the Orthodox Jews, there's lots of Jews that do believe in Jesus, but even the Orthodox Jews that don't want to believe that Jesus was God, and the Orthodox Jews don't want to believe that Jesus is God. So even those Orthodox Jews, they still admit that Jesus did walk the earth. Like Jesus was a man that did walk the earth, and they want to deny that he was God, but I mean the Bible has been proven. Like it is history, it is truth, whether you want to believe that it is or not. It has been proven, and the fact that our country used to be founded on this truth that there is only one truth, and that's God's truth. There is only one righteousness, and that's God's righteousness. There is only one justice, and that's God's justice. And we've fallen so short of that now, and it's like, let's pervert and twist all this truth around, and then have all these pink unicorns running around, and say that that's fine, and it's not fine. It's not fine. And that's why I get pissed off, and that's why I lost my cool and all that. And yeah. I do want to apologize for that, though. I do want to apologize for that. But that's why it comes from a place of righteous anger, just like when Jesus was flipping the tables in the temple, saying like, "What are you doing?" kind of thing.
Yeah, and I want to apologize too. Because like sometimes, we'll like rant and rave. Like, I mean, that's why it's Rant and Rave Part 2, but it's to get out the facts and what's happening in persons with disabilities in our lives, like policy decisions that affect from government, that affect our well-being. And I'm gonna go down memory lane a little bit here. But at first, I want to apologize for if on the show if we've offended anybody at any time, and that's not what it's all about. We bring out the facts of policy decisions from politicians and the game playing of he said, she said, your government was in power for so long, and your government was in power. Why didn't you do it? I want to see politicians work together. It's not difficult. It really is not difficult. And I don't know why governments seem to have a problem with that. So I'm going to go down memory lane here and put this into context, okay? You can work together. So let's go back down the time machine way back, and I think we can all relate to it, whoever's watching, listening. When you were in elementary school, what did you do, right? What did we do, right? We sat around, the teacher, elementary teacher would get you to sit around, maybe not, but I think in many cases you sit around in a little circle. Let's huddle around in a circle, and let's just meditate. Let's just kind of meditate and what your thoughts are in your mind, the good times that you're going through. Let's just share your thoughts with each other, okay? So that's what we're doing right now. Now we're going to share little stories. What did you learn today, right? People are saying, oh my God, what is he doing? This is boring. No, this is not boring. This is not boring, because what you do is you actually learn from each other. You learn about respect, because what you're doing is you're huddled around together in a little circle, right? Mm-hmm. So you're actually talking amongst each other, Can I play with that? Can I play with that? Okay, it's all quiet time, right? So we learned how to add. We learned how to subtract. What letters? I mean, how do you spell, right? And we learned how to respect each other, right? And so when children got out of hand, you then did say, okay, don't do that again. Okay, you're gonna have to stay after school, but you learn to respect each other, saying a common ground about respect and having dignity, right? So I learned all that going forward. Then we'd have quiet time where the teacher would play a little guitar songs, right? Then as we went through school, right? We then go through, into your grade 6, grade 7, now to prepare you to go into high school. Well, to prepare you is, hey, it's going to be a whole new world out there. It's going to be a whole new world. Get ready because you're not going to have all your same people around you, right? You may have some, you may not. They may go to other schools. So to prepare you, and that's what the government should be doing, is preparing people to helping them succeed, meaning income supports. Okay. So this is a good parallel here, right?
Yeah.
So when you're going into high school, so now you're in a brand new world. You're in a brand new world, right? So that same kind of trend happened. You'd get your assemblies, you'd line up, you would sing the national anthem. Oh yes, yep. You would then also respect and have that dignity and respect from your pupils around you. Well, you're at least supposed to anyway. I could I could rant and rave about that one, but Brent got locked in a locker. Oh, how did that happen? Well, I was so short. Well, hey, let's just tuck this guy in his locker, lock the. Well, lucky for me, I was ready to crush in the office, so I'd be banging on it, and janitor would come by. What the heck? And hey, what's going on? Help. So he opened up he basically got some bolt cutters and broke off my lock, got me out of my locker. Well, that was pretty funny, eh? I mean, at the time, for some imbeciles, well, the imbeciles got suspended for doing that. I mean, I was panicking. Like, I had air circulation there, so I could still breathe, thank God. But scary times. But again, that wasn't about respect, right? So when I say about respect, I mean, when those young individuals got older, are they still going to continue that trend, or did they learn their lesson about respecting their pupils around them? And I think that some cases, some people didn't respect that. They got older and they kept that same mind frame going forward. Now, maybe who knows where they got into after that. I was always taught by my teachers and going forward in high school and then went into college, the same theme about respect and dignity, around your pupils and your teachers. And I carried that forward, and that's how I got into advocacy, because I saw some inadequacies happening over time. I wanted to, and I still want to see change happen. I want to see a dignified standard of services and income supports to help our fellow Canadians, our brothers, sisters, our allies who have disabilities too. Maybe they're just allies, but maybe they want to join in with us and basically say, hey, like, let's make things happen in a better world, in a better way across our country. And so when I talk about history, that's what I talk about history, because I remember back, and that's not that long ago, really. I mean, it goes back to decades now, but I always carried that forward, is because it always seemed like a sense of a well-being when you're in your elementary or high school or college. You got taught that, and I got taught that very well from my instructors in college too, about respect and dignity, Brent. Respect and dignity.
Yeah.
I said, and I was and I had just got on the disability status. I was told many years beforehand, decades before, by my mother, because my mother brought me up as a single mother. My father left when I was a child. So my mom took on mother and father role. And she struggled many days, but she still put the basic standard of service for me. Like, if I needed clothing at the time, or I needed something basic, she would make sure she got it for me. But if there's something more,
You always sacrifice as a parent.
she made
Yeah.
major sacrifices. And as I needed more stuff, I then had to make money myself, go and do a paper route. So I'd be walking along and pulling a little wagon with papers. because I needed to make money for myself, because things started going up in cost over time, even way back then. But you got more bang for your dollar though. You could really, like $100 of groceries, you pretty well almost got $100
Yeah.
worth of groceries, right? Now you're lucky if you don't. So when I talked about the rant and rave about government not taking care of their own residents and doing the blame game, provincial, or well, federal's gonna take care of it. No, provincial. You know what? Work together. Work together. Like don't to do a
Yeah.
jurisdictional stuff, because that's like I remember back when I was in college. We were taught this. We were taught not to blame each other for other people's incompetence. Right? It's working together, and I always stuck with me on that part. So when I'm going to teach the government here, okay, whoever's telling you about these policies, you need to tell them, like, let's work together, let's change things, let's get
Yeah.
rid of this archaic BS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I did want to stay kind of in the way back machine a little bit,
yeah.
and then as we as
Well,
I
much Back to the
as,
Future.
as I go back to the way back machine, we're going to be counting up all the pink unicorns as well.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
one right behind me too. Just so you
Yeah,
know.
we'll get there, but I just wanted to again, for people that are old enough, they'll remember Terry Fox.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
love Gray Fox. I
yeah,
have tears in my eyes when that the day that he
yeah,
passed.
and he was a young man who lost his leg to cancer, but and he raised money for cancer. That's what he raised money for. But for all the people that were disabled that were around at the time that Terry Fox was around, I mean, this was the guy that, yes, he was raising money for cancer, but it was so much more than that. It was like,
Oh
here's
yeah,
here's a guy that doesn't have a leg,
yeah.
that's
He's very courageous.
that's disabled, and it's like, wow, he is putting Canada on the map.
Mhm.
And so that's one example, and then let's fast forward a little bit to to Rick Hansen. So that
Yeah,
was 86, 87, right? I think
yeah. Expo
yeah,
time.
he finished his Man in
Man.
Motion tour. It was 87 and was when he finished it.
Mhm.
And and so there again, I think everybody that was around then, there's lots of us that are again old enough to remember. There was a lot of hope. There was a lot of hope then, back in 87, excuse me, that wow, things are really going to change for people with disabilities. That things are going to really raise the profile. He's really going to, and in some ways he did. Don't get me wrong. In some ways he did, but let's remember. Let's put things into context and actually remember that it was only 4 short years later when you had Mike Harcourt suddenly get rid of the disability pensions. So
That's right.
so that was in 91. So that was 4 short years later, and then another maybe 2 or 3 years after that, then he started the clawbacks. So I mean, so here you have two examples. You have Terry Fox. It's like, wow, this is great. This is like going to really raise the profile for people with disabilities. And then you have 1987. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
Rick Hansen's really going to raise the profile for people with disabilities. And all of a sudden, you get to 91. And it's only four years later, and then everything just falls off a cliff. And
Yeah.
it's like, let's start disrespecting people with disabilities now. And it's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that, kind of when I look back at the memory lane here and then in our time machine, and I look back at that because I was told around that time to apply. I
Yeah.
was told by my
Well,
practitioner.
I didn't even know. I didn't even
Yeah,
know.
I didn't.
I didn't even know it was a thing. Honestly.
No, I didn't either. And my doctor kept telling me, like, I'm going to be suffering from allergies, like, and my mom, is no fault of hers. She couldn't afford to move into another home because that was her home. But we had a lot of my mom. My mom had a lot of cats and dogs. She loved her family, and we had a potbelly pig. It was just raised as a family pets, and she had ducks and chickens, and I mean, you name it. She had and a fish, an aquarium too. Oh yes, the cats would be getting their claws in the top of the fish tank, trying to get the fish out, and yeah, of course I'd swat them. Yeah, you know. But anyway, long story short on that. So I look back at it, and I look at, and I still remember that time hearing on the news. It was around dinner time that we talked about Mike Harcourt, and my mom turned the channel. She said, "Turn this filth off." She says, "I can't believe that premier would actually say that." I said, "Mom, he said that." She says, "Oh, I don't understand. Why would a premier even say that? Like, I'm talking about deadbeats, you know,
Yeah.
varmints, you know, and
Yeah.
like and yeah, she was so mad. But anyway, talking about
Cheats, varmints,
applying,
and deadbeats. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, talking about applying for disability, like I kept saying no, no, I don't, because I was actually at the time, I was actually working full time as a dishwasher in a 50s 60s diner. I loved it. I loved because I loved I loved the people that I worked around at the time. They made me feel welcome, like and respected, and they they knew that I was having difficulty at times. I couldn't work in the kitchen itself because I wasn't fast enough, and my hand and eye coordination. It just I they got so flabbergasted with me, right, Brent? Can you just maybe just focus on what you're doing then? And they were nice to me about it, but I realized that over time that's something that I wouldn't be able to do long term. But I kept putting my mind versus mind over matter, mind over physical, and my mind kept saying, yeah, you can do this, Brent. Just keep going." And of course, that was the narrative that one of my instructors had said. Well, I was going to college at the time, right? And so I got discussing it. I said, well, like if I leave here, I don't know what I'm going to do. They're like, "Brent, I mean, this came from my instructor from college, Brent. Maybe it's time that you maybe need to maybe look at applying for disability." No, 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 no. I don't need that. No, it's a pension. And my instructor thought, and so did my doctor, thought the pensions were still there. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm glad that we should bring this out on the show. We let the public know that perception that governments are going to be there to take care of their residents, their citizens,
Yeah.
it's like a camouflage. It's like,
Yeah.
actually, well, hello, actually, no, they don't.
Yeah.
And so my instructor kept saying, well, no, Brent, you really should. I see the trend happening. And I mean, not saying that you can't go maybe and try and go and do something as long as you can in your life of maybe there's kind of certain work that you can do maybe, but over time later in life, you're going to find that like having a pension is going to be something that it's going to protect you. And if you can do something going forward, do some work, great. And if you find that you can't, at least you're going to have that pension. So when I looked into it, my mom said, well, like she had made and I didn't even know this. My mom had made an appointment with me to see the worker who
Oh,
was having
wow.
seniors pension,
Yeah.
and the same worker who was handling disability.
Oh, wow.
Like, and then she said, "Oh, hi, Brent." I'm like, "Oh, hi." And then she's like, "So your mom said that you want to do an application." And I'm like, "Not really." I go, "Thanks a lot. Like, thanks a lot for making an appointment for me, like without consulting me." But she's like, "Well, this is in your best interest." And the worker said, "It is. This is in your best interest." I go, "So it's a pension?" A pension? No, maybe your mom misunderstood. My mom says, "No, it's a pension." Oh, no, no. The government got rid of that actually under the administration, under the Harcourt administration. What? No, I said to the worker, no, my doctor even said it's a pension. And my instructor said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe there was a misunderstanding." I go, "Can you maybe tell my instructor at college, and hey, maybe my mom misunderstood." I went to the college when I said they were livid. My doctor was livid.
Yeah.
Again, why take away? Okay, this is going forward to any government. Okay, I'm going to make this very clear. Bring back the disability pension. It's not hard. Put it back in place and bring it up to a standard of living, tie it to inflation and predictable amounts going forward every year. Because I can tell you right now, my question still was never answered by Mr. Eby. David, my question was not answered. I asked you a question on the radio, okay, on CKNW one morning. I asked a question, and it wasn't from me. It was actually from my manager where I live, and said, why did you not get a rate increase on your disability? And my landlord said, your pension. Again, they thought it was a pension. And I said, actually, it's not a pension. It used to be. Why did they take away? So my question was, why did we not get a rate increase on our income? Because you gave us a 3.5% increase, annual increase every year on our rent. Where am I supposed to cut back? And then your response was, well, we changed the earnings exemptions, Brent. And maybe maybe you're not well aware of that,
just get a job.
Maybe get a job.
And then we'll claw back your income.
Yeah, David, I had a job. I physically could not do that kind of work any longer. Visual acuity, to retain that, I'm not able to do that kind of work anymore. Physically, as we get older, David, we do get more disabilities. I'm not saying I don't want to work, David. I'm not saying I don't want to, but mind versus physical, there's a big difference on that. It's like saying, hey, your mind can say, yeah, you can do everything you want. One of my neighbors used to always say this to me. You could just go and do whatever you want. Really? Wow. Because that was that mindset. But anyway, I'm not going to ramble on that part. But the fact is that people who are medically assessed and disabled and designated as a person with disability are assessed by their practitioner for a reason, right? And you go through a lot of paperwork in order to determine that. You don't just magically say, well, I want to get disability because I just want to be protected. No, it gets a point in time in your life where you need to have, it's like seniors, you get a pension, right? Imagine putting seniors through that. And I'm not doing a comparison because government loves to do, they love to pin each other.
One of the things I wanted to do, like we're going to wrap up the show here, but one of the things I want to do during the wrap up is actually just talk about all of the, like, let's line up all of the pink unicorns and let's systematically line up all the unicorns and go through one by one all of the unicorns policies, because there is a lot, Brent. There is a lot. Like, let's and here's a good short for everybody to watch. So we're going to go through this, and so that everyone gets a good idea. But just before we do that, though, I just wanted to declare for everybody where I stand on this. I want to have a dignified amount going across from BC, every single province. I want to get all this red tape out of the way. Okay, get a red tape out of the way. Let's get this. If you want to launch a Canada Disability Benefit, let's commit to that promise. Let's get it out the door. Do a retroactive back to when it was originally promised. Get the money out so people can put the money back into society. Right? People, I know the old narrative that, is people say, well, it's going to cost too much money to do that. We already have the services, everyone, folks. All the GSTs, PST, CPP, EI, pensions, all the money, all the services are there. We just need to unify it. Is it a basic income? Well, we'll talk another day about that part. But anyway, the money's there. It just has to be redistributed properly. And and the government says, stop pinning each other against each other. Let's work together, right? And listen to the disability community. We have lived experience. We know what's best for us. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the theme of it. And so let's go down memory lane. And,
So I wanted to line up all of the pink unicorns, and we'll go through them one by one. But just before I do that, I just wanted to preface one really quick comment, and it's going to be my last God comment of the podcast. I promise. But remember, I think it was 2 years ago. I made I referenced that again. It was about 2 years ago. There was a sermon that my pastor gave at the church, and he said, and it wasn't necessarily talking about government, but his statement was. This kind of the theme of the sermon was people in power, and that includes government. People in power have the ability to help or oppress. Again, that was the whole theme of the whole sermon, was people with power have the ability to either help or oppress. And I think we can if we line up all the unicorns, I think we can make a pretty clear statement that the governments for the last 30 years have done a pretty good job of oppressing people with disabilities. Have done a pretty good job of that, right? Pretty good job of oppressing on purpose, like we say, accidentally on purpose, or like I always say, it's oppression, it's legislative poverty, accidentally on purpose, right? But it's deliberate, purposeful oppression. When you have the power, you could choose to help, but instead you're deliberately choosing to put your finger and deliberately oppressing people down. And so that's my last comment about any kind of sermon or God or whatever. But at this point, I just wanted to line up all the unicorns now. So let's start with a very simple one. Seems like a very small one. Is the PWD bus pass. We used to have it here in BC. It used to be a yearly thing. It used to be $45 for the whole year. The government took it away for equity in the system. And again, like I've always said, you don't take something away and call it equity. You usually add something. It's usually boosting something up and adding something to make it equitable, not taking something away and calling it equitable, right? Because that's just you're playing with that definitions at that point. You're deliberately perverting definitions, which government loves to do. So here's that first pink unicorn where the people with disabilities in this province now do not have that yearly bus pass. You have the elderly, you have the seniors that do, right? So there you're pitting people with disabilities against elderly and saying, well, seniors get the bus pass, but people with disabilities don't. So that's unicorn number one. Unicorn number two, you talk about this all the time. Seniors get what are called that SAFERS, the rent subsidy, right? The SAFERS amount. So seniors get that. People with disabilities don't. People with disabilities don't get that. Seniors get a pension. People with disabilities don't. That's unicorn number three. And then I mean we can go on and on, right? I mean I'm sure you have your own set of unicorns, but this idea that pensions for seniors matter, but it doesn't matter for people with disabilities anymore. We can just turn everything into a pink unicorn, and it's just crazy to me,
Yeah, I mean, and I talked about that just recently, where imagine when I said to our audience, imagine you're a senior, okay, you have a pension, and the government coming along and going, all of a sudden, okay, a policy decision, we are now taking away pensions.
Yeah.
Imagine, and then so you're now going to have a heavily means tested income, but you're not going to be protected having a pension any longer. That's how people with disabilities feel in the province of British Columbia, and also and I look at also there's another province in particular that does the same thing. Now again, I don't know why provinces pin each province against each other. Ontario does the same thing. Ontario does the same thing. Now it's jurisdictional. Like BC, do your own thing. Ontario, do your own thing. Don't be looking at each other going, well, hey, that's a great idea. Let's copy that idea. It's like pinning disabled people against disabled people, policies against policies again.
And let's continue with the unicorns, because we also have things like on the disclaimer form, or what is it called?
Oh,
the form where you have to declaration report.
Do you have $1 million to report, Neil?
Yeah, it's like, please empty your pockets of all loose change.
Yeah.
Like,
do you have a penny?
Yeah, please empty your pockets. And when is the last time you were in jail? That's on the declaration report.
Yeah. And are incarcerated. Yeah.
And it's like, and if you're disabled, you're not allowed to leave the province for more than a month.
No, day pass. You have a month pass. Did you get your month?
And if you're disabled, you're not allowed to love anybody without severe penalties.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, and I mean, like,
And same as BC Housing, Neil, and with that pink unicorn, that kind of
yeah,
corresponds to that. It's like, you want to get into BC Housing? Oh, you need to now follow our guidelines. You cannot be in a relationship. Oh, you're in a relationship? Oh, then you need to have one file under BC Housing. Oh,
yeah.
how about a roommate? Nope, sorry. How about a friend? Nope, sorry.
Well, and let's finish off with the biggest unicorn of them all. And
Yeah.
you just touched on it, Brent.
Yeah.
Was this whole BC housing thing?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know, the government says we're gonna build, like David Eby's said now in the election, like, we're gonna build 300,000 units. Well, that's great, but where are they? You know, they're not there now. But in the meantime, you know, people with disabilities, you can find a place for $500 a month. That's fine. That's totally fine. You know, $500 a month. That's a lot. That's a lot to find a place.
Oh yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so that's a huge unicorn right there. So I mean, again, we're talking about deliberate, purposeful oppression, and to have government say that $500 is a lot, Brent. $500 is a lot, Neil. You should be able to find a place to rent for that, or you should be able to afford your mortgage for that.
Way back in the 1980s, my mom rented a whole house. I mean, a whole house for $425. $425, a whole house, 3-bedroom.
Well, and again, let's keep it on topic a little bit with the election. Just the other day, I heard Sonia Furstenau made a comment that back in 2017, which was only 7 short years ago, back in 2017, she said the average rents for Victoria, and I mean, I know you can verify this.
Yes.
The average rents in Victoria were somewhere around the neighborhood of $800 to $900.
$988, and now it's over $2,100.
Yeah.
Nothing has been
at least.
That unit.
At least.
All the things that changed is change the lock on the door. That's it. And that's why we talk about REITs, right? And
in 7 short years, the rents have over doubled.
Yeah.
And the government says, oh, well, just wait for those 300,000 units to be built. Well, they're not around. And you know, the wait list for BC housing is 20 years now.
Yeah, but then you got to go through all the criteria.
You got to go through all that red tape. And
if you have a friend, O'Neill, if you have a friend under BC housing, and I want everyone to understand this, because I heard right for myself, I asked a question: what if you have a friend?
Yeah.
What if you have a friend that just wants, and your friend's PWD? Say you know somebody, I used an example. I said, what if you have a friend that maybe lives 2 or 3 doors down, who's PWD, and you say, you know what, they can't afford the market housing. Maybe their place got sold or condemned. You know, they got to move for whatever reason. I mean, people do move in life. I mean, my gosh, like, I don't know, unless you love your place and it's not falling apart or it's not being sold or whatever the case may be. Situations happen in life, you know, and some people do move. So I said, what if your friend wants to move in with you into BC housing? Nope. And the answer was no. And I said, so you're basically guaranteeing that won't happen. And I was told right to my face, right to my ear, not my face, on the phone, well, Brent, why do you keep saying no guarantee? Here are the facts. Here is the actual policy. Up again, everyone, policy.
Yeah.
Your friend and you cannot move in unless you and your friend are in a relationship. Yeah. You need to follow. So I said, oh, so you have to be common law? But what if your friend and you are not in a relationship? So you're saying that you have to move in together, and then when you move in together, you're now going to be common law? Yeah. Okay, so what? You're going to have a whole bunch of friends? What if you have a whole bunch of your friends? Like, you've got 50 friends. This is to blow people's minds. What if you have 50 friends, and they say, hey, BC Housing says, you know what, normally we don't allow this, but you and your 49 friends, 50 all total, you can all move into I don't know, there's no such thing, and this is like a magic unicorn, we've got a 25 unit place. There is no such thing in this world, but
Yeah.
magic unicorns.
Yeah.
Imagine 50 of you all move in.
Yeah.
Now you're all common law. You're all common law.
Yeah.
How is that?
So you can
That's
all
what
survive on one check, maybe.
Yeah. And that's why I say that's the thinking process
Yeah.
here that the
Yeah.
government puts into place. Come
Mhm.
on, like this, cut the red tape. Give me the big scissors, and I'll
Yeah.
cut the red tape for you. People need housing.
Yeah.
They need housing, and by not having like that fixed, what you're doing is you're suppressing down people
Yeah.
with disabilities, their lives, their decision making of where they want to live and
Yeah.
be.
The fact.
I've said this to the
Yeah.
minister that's actually on, and
Yeah.
I had suggested to bring in the what Safers has, the seniors
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
and I said the minister at the time had said that was a brilliant idea, Brent,
Yeah.
a brilliant idea. I guess, and
Yeah.
so
Sheila Malcolmson. Sheila Malcolmson. Yeah.
I guess people are thinking, okay, what is he talking about? So what I'm going to say is, and what I did say was, as a suggestion, as a highly recommended suggestion, was to extend over the Safers program, which is 30% of your income to housing. So without how that works is that so you're on your check, as I say, as seniors would have your base amount. They don't have the shelter and support. They just get one check. They don't have it divided between shelter and a support. They just get a check.
Yeah.
Okay. And but PWD, you get shelter and you get that support. And the reason why PWD, and I was explaining this by a worker one time, why PWD do not have that, because they have the shelter portion in their check embedded in the whole check. There's a section called shelter and there's a section called support. If they get rid of that word shelter, you now have the same same kind of criteria as seniors. However, seniors have a pension, it's protected. PWD don't. So easy solution: get rid of the word shelter and turn that PWD highly income means tested back to the way that it used to be as a pension. Yeah. So now you have it just like the seniors do. You now are eligible to have in market housing. You're now eligible to have that system extended over to PWD and market housing. So if you live in, I don't know, you live in an apartment building in, I don't know, I'll just say Langley. You live in an apartment building and you don't have to move. You don't have to move at all. My mom didn't have to move. She was she had got on to Safers at the time. She never had to move from her place to where BC Housing told her, well, maybe you need to move. They told her, well, maybe you should move to a BC Housing facility. No, this is my home. And the worker had told my mom at the time, no, Gladys, you don't need to move. You can stay in your home. Really? Yeah, you don't need to move. Well, what if my son, Brent, wants to move? Well, he can move wherever he wants, but he'll have his shelter portion. He'll have to use his support portion to subsidize the balance of the rent, because rents were at like $475, $500. So there was always that $325 at the time.
Yeah. And
actually it was $275 and went to $325 and then $375. And we know that it stayed frozen until 2023, and then they gave an increase up to $125 up to $500. Nothing in 2024, but hey, but anyway, I guess my point is that you have to subsidize the difference. Yeah. And how the rent geared to income works for seniors is that they will get that top up by the government on their income. Yeah. They give it to their landlord. Yeah. So now PWD could actually technically stay in their own home where they live, and we don't have to wait for 300,000 units to get built. Yeah. And even if they do get built, you still got to meet that criteria. Yeah. For BC Housing under their umbrella.
Well, exactly. Let's do closing comments, because I think we should. Yeah. And I'll start, and I'll just say that this whole show again comes down to the pink unicorns, because government knows that there is no housing stock available right now. Whether it's in BC Housing or existing housing that's market, there is no available housing that's that people with disabilities can afford. So that's truth and fact. I'm not making that up. It's truth and fact.
True. It's very true.
It's truth and fact that it's not available. So if they know it's not available, how is it not oppressive to say to both you and me and all of the 100,000 people with disabilities in the province? How is it proper to say that we know the housing's not available, we know it's not available, but here's $500, have at it. Go try to find a place for $500. That is deliberately oppressive pink unicorn policy that is meant to be discriminatory on purpose, very deliberately, like I said, accidentally on purpose, and that's just wrong, right?
Because and that's why the pink unicorns grow larger over time.
And like I said, let's bring it right back full circle. There's a reason why on the part one I got mad. I mean, again, it's a righteous anger because I'm a man who is I'm a Christian man, and I believe in the truth of God. I believe in the righteousness of God. I believe in the justice of God. And it just pisses me off that our governments, both provincial and federal, do not care about what is truth and what is righteous and what is justice anymore. They don't care. And I just want government to start caring both on every level, whether it's provincial or federal. I want them to start caring and saying, you know what, truth matters, righteousness matters, justice matters. No more pink unicorn garbage. That's my closing comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. And I echo that too. And I talk about these things all the time on our podcast. And a lot of our guests that we have on, they echo everything that we say. And again, it's all about policy driven decision making. Whoever's telling the government, okay, yeah, you need to get rid of those people that are your ones that are telling you what they're doing that are affecting people's lives. Like, people should have a right to make a decision that they feel is best for themselves, like where they want to live. But when they're not allowed to live, how frustrating. Like, I could rant and rave for another whole segment, but I'm not, because we're going to do our closing comments. That'll be another day. On a different theme, not rant and rave, part 3. No, this is part 2. But I guess the fact is, I don't talk a lot about what goes on that in where I live right now. We have a neighbor who moved above us, and it's making our life a living hell, beyond a living hell. We're getting earful from our management company saying, "Oh, come on, you guys are exaggerating it." No, like dropping things on the floor, and it echoes. One day I was doing a podcast, Neil, and I'm surprised that it didn't pick up the audio. It was so loud that literally the couch shook. Yeah, wow. It was like a big thud. And I mean, imagine watching TV. You're watching, just relaxing, bang. Yeah. And and the management company, oh yeah, come on. Like, there's they downplay it. It's almost like they want you to move. Like, it's almost like they're doing things. It's like planting, like doing a plant of parachuting a person in there, saying, here, let's move these people here to irritate them. Yeah. Because we've got laminate flooring. Yeah. Where we live, and the laminate flooring, it's creaking a lot. And over time, I was doing some research and reading up, and I was talking to a contractor just recently about this too. The flooring needs to be replaced. Management company says, no, it's not going to get replaced. Why don't they want it replaced? Okay, there's number one. It's going to cost them too much money. No, it won't. It's actually easy, because I was actually talking to Sonia too. Her dad was saying that it's not hard to replace that. He used to build places, so he knows. I mean, it's bolts. They just have to get tightened up. Or if there's underlying issue with it, it's maybe it's rotting underneath. It still needs to be replaced. It's called preventative maintenance over time. After every so many years, you need to update your place, because if you don't, it's going to fall apart. And of course, politicians would actually probably agree with me what I'm saying right now. They'll say, exactly, REITs, right? REITs, yes. They just want the profits. That's exactly what they want. They want you to move so that the landlord now can jack up your rent as high as it can go. And my manager actually admitted that to me one day and said, the investors just want a rate of return, Brent. They just want a rate of return. Their stakeholders, our stakeholders, they're expecting a rate of return. And if we don't get them a rate of return, well, it's very unfortunate. I go, what? So you're hoping people move out? Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that was the word, pretty much. And the guy admitted it to me. And I thought, wow, why are you telling me that? So what I'm saying is that when the Sonia first know on her platform, she has said that she wants to put an interim amount in play, like an interim vacancy control in place on the platform until we can get other stuff built, right?
Yeah. And
Now
she,
that's the tenant because
and
it's
she's admitting that the only way to fix the current house problem, because there is no housing available, the only way to do it is to actually give people more money. That's the only solution. That's the only solution.
And that's what I explain is that we're running like rent geared to income, right? 30% of your income to your rent. So by doing a vacancy control as temporary, like she had said, she was asked that question on on a radio talk show. She said in the interim, right? In the interim. So let's cool the market down a little bit here for now. And some landlords will say, no, that's a terrible idea. I would say, yeah, like in the long term, probably not a good idea in the long term to keep vacancy control in place. And I know Sonia first of all has agreed on that. Like, yeah, like we can't forever keep it in place as that. But in the meantime, put that in place, the vacancy control in place, then get rent geared to income in place for PWD and market housing. Let's get rid of the shelter name. And I'm going to keep advocating very hard on that. Whoever forms government going forward, I'm going to be expect to see a lot of pushback about that. Get rid of the shelter name. Get rid of it. Seniors don't have it in. So expect to see a lot of pushback, and we'll be talking a lot about that on the podcast too. I want to see that eliminated. It does not need to be in place. One of our panelists that we have on, we will be doing kind of reviewing that going forward, who lives in Alberta, has also had mentioned to us before, like we don't need that. We don't need that shelter portion in place. And I mean, I look back at it and I always questioned it. Why do PWD have a shelter portion in their check?
It's another oppressive pink unicorn thing.
And so people understand, well, what does that shelter mean? So once upon a time, people in SROs had that shelter portion. Majority of PWD live in market housing. We don't have $500. Like you can't find a place for $500. Even an SRO, which, in my opinion, should be all torn down. They should be all abolished. Those are single room occupancy. Those places were built way back in the early 1900s. The electrical system is shot. The buildings are just completely run down. Imagine PWD living in there. I had a worker one time, Neil.
They've had fires in there,
Yes,
and
I had a worker one time.
Died.
I had a worker one time said, well, why don't you go and look at something like that? There's a single room occupancy. I go, would you live there? And, well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there is an opportunity of getting cheaper housing. I go, would you live in there? I know I wouldn't. Would you live in there? I'm telling you, so you're refusing to get cheaper housing? I go, would you go and live in a mud pit? No. Well, either would I. Would you go and live in a I said this. Would you go and live in a pile of dog shit? Excuse me? You're being rude. I go, would you go and live in a pile of dog shit? I would not. Then why would you expect that to be done for persons with disabilities? I said, I ran circles around, and I made the lady actually walk away from me. I go, so do unto others as you want done unto you. My mom used to drill that into me all the time. And the golden
rule.
Yeah, and I had an instructor who drilled that into me. Brent, do unto others as you want done unto you. And I always carry that forward with advocacy. Same thing, is to teach the government enough is enough. Let's work together. These are my ending statement today. Do unto others as you want done unto you. Okay? Now, work together. You can change the system. We've taught you how to change the system in BC and across the country. Advocacy doesn't stop. Canada Disability Benefit right now, as it stands, it's a freaking joke. It's a gut punch. It's disgusting. That needs to be changed. Either commit to it or, you know what? as my mom used to always say to me, Brent, shit or get off the pot. Meaning get off the toilet, right?
Yeah.
So either you're going to commit to it. I mean, you promise something like it's like me saying to you, Neil. I promise, Neil. We're gonna do part two of Rant and Rave. When? Well, I promise we're gonna do it. When? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but we will. When? That's exactly how PWD feel. How the federal government has treated us.
Yeah.
And I know some of the individuals across the country are very disappointed on how it's been developed. I echo that. I know we can work together. Let's just get it done. But at the same time, BC has its own responsibility of taking care of their own residents.
Yeah.
A former minister, Neil, had mentioned to us in a podcast that the government has 3 revenue streams that you could tap into at any time.
Yeah.
BC chooses not to do that for whatever reason. Again, whoever's telling the government not to do that, to tap in, come on to the show. Let's talk. Okay. Yeah. So whoever's telling the government not to raise the rates, come on to the show. Let's talk. Yeah. Make an appointment with us, and we'll get you scheduled in, and we can do a Rant and Rave part 3. Yeah. But anyway, this is Rant and Rave. Brent's going off the rails.
Yeah,
and I guess it's been ticked off, right?
And we will punch out, but I just wanted to make one very quick final comment, and that's that, and I think you will agree, Brent, and I hope everybody with a disability will agree with this statement, because I think it's pretty universal. Is the thing about having a disability, a lifelong disability, is that it keeps you humble. It keeps you humble, and it makes you, like, it brings you down a couple pegs, right? It just does. And I don't wish ill on any MLA or any politician or any MP, but you kind of wish, even for a day or two or a week or whatever, that all of these politicians that are saying, like, I'm gonna be the one to fix this. It's gonna be me that's gonna fix this. Like, vote for me, I'll fix it. Yeah. Well, I mean, have some humble pie, because I can tell you, as a person with disability, like, I'm eating humble pie all the time. That's what you learn. That's what you learn by having a disability. You learn to be humble, and there's
absolutely.
There's too many politicians, again, provincial and federal, that have these huge egos that believe they can do everything themselves, that they can operate outside of God's standards of what truth is, what righteousness is, what justice is. Like, let's operate outside of God, and I'll do it all myself, because I'm Superman. I can do everything myself. Yep. And I don't need to eat humble pie. I don't need to eat
Clark Kent. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to eat humble pie. I don't need to be humble, like, because I'm the guy. I'm the guy to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. All of these people that have these super huge egos, they really need to eat a piece of humble pie and learn humility and learn to be humble. As a person with a disability, that's what you learn more than anything else, I think, is your disability knocks you down a few pegs and teaches you how to be humble, and puts you down in a very low place, and you realize how much you need to struggle just to sustain yourself.
Oh yeah. You're in fighter's flight. And I was brought up that way. I mean, I remember so many times, growing up with a single mother, and the struggles I went through. And I mean, I think I will do a show coming up soon, and I'll talk more on that. But I'll just give you a quick overview. The struggles that I endured, the struggles that my mom, majorly endured. But like I say, she put standards, and at times there wasn't the standards, but maybe a little bit above the standard, but it was always that basic standard in place, because she knew she had to take care of me and my brother the best way she could. She was questioned at times, because one of my neighbors who had then passed away eventually, told went in and talked to a local government office and said, I think that maybe he's getting malnutritioned or something. And
Yeah.
of course, government hears back then, oh God, no, no, knock, knock, knock,
Yeah.
going up the door. They came in and asked me questions. I said, who are you? And I was very inquisitive. Who are you? Oh, I'm actually just up. How are you? And I said, I'm fine. What are you doing here? What can I help you with? Did you want to come in and have a pop or whatever? I don't have much in the fridge, but we have some. I mean, I got some orange crush or root beer. No, I'm actually here to see your mom. Oh, I'm sorry. She's actually gone to work right now. Oh, so you're home alone? Oh no, I'm not here. I'm home alone. I've got my neighbor here with me right now. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Doubting me, and I said,
Yeah.
why would I be home alone? I'm not allowed to be home alone.
Yeah.
Are you getting well taken care of? And asking me as a child,
Yeah.
are you getting well taken care of? Is your mother taking care of you? Who are you?
Yeah.
I said, my mom told me I'm not allowed to talk to strangers.
Yeah.
And guess what? All of a sudden, my mom came home early from work. She came in right behind, and she goes, "Oh, hello. What? Why? I just heard you asking my son, are you getting well taken? Are you getting taken care of? Why are you questioning my son?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, ma'am. Like, why are you questioning me now? My mom's asking you, why are you doing this?" So I always kind of put two and two together going forward, and I said, like, as a single mother bringing me up, I'm glad the way my mom brought me up. She taught me about respect and
Yeah.
dignity, and she always taught me, do unto others as you want done unto you.
Yeah.
I think the government needs to take a step back. Let parents be parents.
Yeah.
Let parents take care of their siblings. I mean siblings. Their children. And I think it's like jurisdictional. Like stay in your lane and
Let's
take care of the
let's
basic
let's
needs.
turn that question back on the leaders, Brent,
Yes, that's what I mean.
and ask: are people with disabilities being well taken care of? To the leaders,
Exactly.
ask the leaders that: are people with disabilities being well taken care of? Yes or
Yeah,
no? And
yeah,
be honest. I want to hear the truth. I don't want to
yeah.
hear. I don't want to hear pink unicorns. I want to hear the truth.
Well, that's why I worded it that way, is
Yeah.
because I want people to kind of look at that perspective and then go, oh, and say to themselves, well, hey, I have someone in my life has a disability. I have a disability. Maybe you're a parent and you're saying, oh, I've never come on to the show before. I've just tuned into this. And wow, I'd love to come on and talk about, my son has a disability. My daughter has a disability, or our whole family have disabilities. Let's make this well known across our spectrum, across our country. Let's unite in whatever way we can together, however we can, in our own ways. I mean, we all have different approaches on advocacy, on our approaches, but let's unite somehow together, even as allies, and let the governments know, whoever it is in your jurisdiction across BC or across any province that you're in, or even if you're watching from outside of Canada, let your state governors know. People with disabilities in the States too. I'm sure that we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking, oh, well, I'm going through this too. Can I come on their channel?
Yeah.
Sure, reach out to us, right? I'd love to hear your stories. Like, how is it different in the United States or anywhere in the world than it is in BC or in Canada? Like, how are you treated? How are you treated by your officials? Are you treated with dignity and respect? But here's the question I have too, Neil, is how the government, how are you going to take care of people with disabilities as a income, a base automatically without all the hoops that you got to jump through to get it? A
Let's
basic,
let's let's scrap all of this income tested crap too.
yeah, we don't need all
Yeah.
that.
Like,
That we, yeah, this,
well,
this
income test you to death. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, this crypt the
Yeah.
all the clawbacks. Let's
Yeah.
get rid of all this
We do
stuff.
need to get off
Yeah,
the podcast, Brent. But
sure.
let's just say, yeah, like this is the day before the election. Apparently, it's going to rain a lot tomorrow. Like
Oh, it is.
rain a ton tomorrow. But I still want everybody that hasn't voted, get out and vote. Like if you have to take an Uber or whatever you need to do, get out and vote. Because
Your vote counts.
your vote counts. And make it count. And hopefully we can be the change that needs to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely get out there and vote. Make your vote count on who you feel is going to be best representing your community, your best interests. And when you're voting, I want you to think again: is anyone in your life has a disability? If you have a disability, who is that? Who's going to represent your best interest as the representative in your community? And you may look at the actual political party or the representative. I look at the representative myself personally. I look at who's going to represent me in my community, who is um, who is listening to my concerns, and question is that you'll maybe talk to your representative. If you're going out there today, maybe canvassing. Ask the question: is your party leader or your representative get them to talk to your party leader? Who is going to bring back the disability pensions?
Yeah.
That'd be the big question.
Yeah.
That'd be the big question. And I guess the leaders right now. Are you going to advocate to bring back disability pensions in the province of British Columbia? Yes or no?
Or are you going to advocate for unicorns behind your head, Brent?
Oh, geez, that one again. Yeah, I know that thing that just
Yeah.
scares me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you very much,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Take care.